The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the journey within you. It feels like it's been way too long since I've been here with you guys, and I am so blessed to start journey number 3, season number 3. That's hard to even believe too. And I am excited to have a special guest today to record with, and let me bring her in. This is Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, I am so excited to have you here today with us and to share your journey. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. First, I want to say, we've known each other for, I guess, a few years now. We met through a mutual coach. We met through some products that we love and grown in our relationship. And I'm just so thankful for that and what you mean to me personally. So I'm just glad to have you here. So I want you to share your journey with our community.
I am so thankful to be here. It's so good to see you again. It has been a while. What's been laid on my heart as you and I were talking, and I was thinking what might be more impactful for the listeners is a couple of different things. So throughout my journey, I've noticed in my family and really everywhere that there is a pull between kind of the glamour of a little bit, I'll say the dark side, right? The dark side is anything that tempts us, anything that we want to use other than Christ to fill the emptiness. And even, serial killer podcasts are a thing. And that's kind of what drew me to even my career. So I remember being a kid growing up in a Catholic family. And really, I was one of those kids who was, I had a short attention span. And for whatever reason, I had a pretty decent vocabulary as a kid. So I thought very quickly, and the adults in my life really didn't know what to do with that. I was like, we just got 2 puppies over Christmas. And I feel like that was me as a kid.
Yeah.
You need exercise, you need mental stimulation, you need a good place to kind of focus that stuff. Otherwise, you get kind of destructive. And for me, when I wasn't intellectually stimulated or exercising or doing anything, now I wasn't like boosting cars and doing whatever. Not there's, I'm not judging that, but I was mouthy. I was a mouthy kid. And when we would go to, in the Catholic world, you go to like education, it's called CCD. All the Catholics will know exactly what I'm talking about. So we'd go to school all day, and then we'd walk and we'd get some snacks, and then we'd head to the church, me and all my friends. We'd go there, and we were the disruptive kids. We were always talking out of turn. I wasn't paying attention because it wasn't real to me. It was something that, it was a bunch of stories. It wasn't interesting. I listened to a priest who seemed to kind of drone on and not make it into reality for me. And I tried to get involved with things. I was an altar server as a kid. And all my friends and I were altar servers, and we'd sit out in the audience. And our main goal was to make whoever was sitting next to the priest laugh. So if y'all were,
you would be the one I can't sit next to in church. I know that already.
And I still have that. I have to kind of focus, but so none of that was really real to me. And so I went through my education, mostly, I'm going to talk about middle school here just for a second, because we studied World War II history. And I remember studying Hitler and not being enamored with him. That's not even remotely appropriate. But I was fascinated about how a really insignificant man
Mm-hmm.
could motivate, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
motivate a whole country and beyond, several countries,
Mm.
to perpetrate one of the largest atrocities that our world has seen. And there's
Mm.
been obviously horrible genocides in other
Right. Right.
areas of the world. But this one was one in particular that I was like, well, how does that even happen? How do
Yeah.
people fall into that trap? How
Mm.
does someone rise to power? What are like the mental tricks that
Mm-hmm.
people do? Because again, in my high school, a little bit of it, of the culture there, was
Mm.
kill or be killed.
Yeah.
Meaning you were either the bully or
Mm-hmm.
you were the bullied.
Yeah.
And kids are merciless. They just are.
Me.
It was
Mm-hmm.
bad then, and
It's
I
still
know
bad.
with technology, it's gotten much worse. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, again, my little noodle is thinking, and we found a way to just. I was a bully, and
Mm.
I always tell people that because
Yeah.
not because I was anything special, but because my brain figured out really early on that if you didn't do or say certain things, that you weren't going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Where were you living at the time?
oh gosh, a place called Millington, New Jersey. Like,
New Jersey.
just, yeah, Jersey.
Yeah.
So I'm a Jersey
Jersey.
Sicilian, if that makes any sense about my mouth.
Yeah. There you are. That told me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so no, nothing ever got physical or anything, but words hurt. And
Yeah.
so I kind of start seeing this pattern in my life. It was the use of spoken word.
Mm. Yeah.
And my fascination with World War II was a lot of it was propaganda
Right.
and the spoken word and
Mm-hmm.
where all that came from and how you like it was just something that just started coming together for me. So I won't bore you with anything in middle school or anymore in high school or whatnot, college even. But I went on to study psychology
Oh,
and
wow.
political science
Mm-hmm.
and minored in criminal justice
Mm-hmm.
and in undergrad, and then went to grad school to get my doctorate in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Once I hit high school, by the way, like I said, I don't want to live my life this way. Bullying, like
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't fit my persona. I wasn't like that. And thankfully I went to a larger high school where I could ditch that and
Yeah.
just
Just
like,
be.
just
Yeah.
be me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about anything else. And I think a lot about those days and the people I
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
Um, but stopped that as soon as I got into high school, and then went into grad school then to get my doctorate
Mm-hmm.
in community and clinical psychology, and that was in Washington D.C.
Oh, wow.
I waited tables at the Outback Steakhouse in Arlington, Virginia.
Huh?
Um,
Been there. Been
and
in that area.
I mean, I loved Arlington, Alexandria, Virginia. I lived in both of
Mm-hmm.
those areas.
Beautiful area.
Oh, it just
Mm-hmm.
again, the historical part of it,
The
and
culture.
I didn't know anybody down there, so just moved
That's a big move.
moved down there.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my language, so I don't always use clean language. God knows He created me for a certain reason. um, had a lot of GDs in there and
Mhm.
JCs. And I remember as I was waiting tables, if you don't know this, God speaks your language, whatever
Yes.
language it is. And
Yes.
like we refer to me when I start to get a little um, gangster. My
That's a good
gangster
word.
name is Jenny Five Knuckles.
Yeah.
Um, like my husband calls me that. My best girlfriend calls me J5K because it's like you hold on to like this tough part of yourself
Yeah. Yeah.
because you
It's a
always think
survival mode.
yeah, you think you need to go back to it even
Mhm.
even though you really don't.
Yeah.
And so God was telling me on my heart, Jen, you can use whatever language you want. I'm not thrilled about it, but use throw out an F-bomb, use the S word, like whatever. Just could you not use those?
Mm.
And that was the beginning of my journey in like really researching who Christ was.
Right. Right.
Because I was like, all right, I feel like that's reasonable.
Mm.
I'm a wheeler and dealer. I can totally do that. If you tell me I've got freedom of speech and I can use everything, but just try not to use the Lord's name in vain, I can
Yeah.
totally do that.
Yeah.
So again, words, just keeping that kind of in the background. So I remember being invited to a church by one of my customers. This is an older lady, and I went, and it wasn't anything in particular, anything I'd been used to, but I only went once.
Right. Right.
But I sat there and I listened. And then I started reading the Left Behind series.
Mm.
And I remember reading it. And I was like, I've read a lot. And I was a big Stephen King fan at the time.
Yeah.
And good versus evil and monsters and this and that. And so as I was reading this series, I thought, this is really weird. There's no way the Bible said that. Now, again,
Yeah.
raised Catholic my whole life.
Right. Right.
Never cracked open a Bible, was an
Right.
altar server. Like,
Mhm.
obviously I didn't listen very well, but I don't ever remember anybody walking us through Revelation. So I
Right.
cracked open some random Bible I had laying around. and every time, this book allegedly said
Mhm.
something the Bible said, I would
Mhm.
crack it open and I was like, okay, trust but verify. And I'd look and I was like, sure as shooting, like
There it is.
it says it. And so I started reading and reading, and God was like working on my heart, and he, knocking, right, knock.
Mhm. Mhm.
And one of the things that you have to do, it's like 2 years of cheap labor in order to get your doctorate. In addition to all this education, you have to do
Mm.
a pre-doctoral internship, and I did that at a place called Dixon Prison. And it's an all men's medium to maximum
Mhm.
facility. So remember, I told you like Jenny Five Knuckles
Mm.
needs to hang out a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
You need a
That's
certain
tough.
toughness,
Mhm.
nonsense. This is not a game. This is not a
Mm.
serial killer podcast or a made for TV movie. These are the real deal. These are bad
Mhm.
dudes.
Mm.
And so I worked in the prison for a year, and
Mm.
while I was finishing up my internship, and I got hired on there,
Oh, wow.
I remember living in my apartment, just watching. Gosh, there's this Mandy Moore movie, like dating myself, where like this
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
girl, and this bad boy, she
Yeah.
comes around, and a Walk to
Yeah.
Remember.
Yeah.
Sitting alone in my apartment watching A Walk to Remember, like sobbing my eyes out, and
Oh.
um, a knock is at my door. Now,
Mm.
remember, like, I don't know a lot of people in this area.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Work in a prison, a men's prison,
Mhm.
nonetheless.
Mhm.
I'm not in the habit of opening my door to strangers and
Ugh.
letting them walk into my home.
No.
Not
No.
happening.
No.
But whatever reason, like sobbing, blow my nose, answer the door. There's this young woman. Her name is Hannah Walker. And there was
Mm.
another woman with her. I couldn't tell you what her name was.
Mm.
But Hannah asked if she could speak to me for a moment. And I was like, okay. Again,
Yeah. Okay.
not
This is not
habit.
normal.
But I let her and this other girl walk in, sit on my sofa, and she asked if I knew Christ. And I was
Mm.
like, well, I guess. I mean, who doesn't
Mm.
know Christ? Like what?
Right.
And
Right.
she's like, but do you have a personal relationship with him? And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
So she talked to me about the plan of salvation and walked me through,
Mm.
how Christ died for us.
Mhm.
And really it's this gift.
Mm.
And
A beautiful
it's
gift.
a gift for everyone,
All right.
but you only get the gift if you like reach out your hands and
Take
take
it.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, and I was like, okay, so this girl isn't speaking some mumbo jumbo to me. She's speaking my language here.
This is
God had
legit.
already started softening my heart and literally knocked on my door.
Mm, mm,
And so I remember that night accepting Christ into my life. And, later on going to church services and whatnot. But the one thing that nobody really prepares you for is like when you're not one of God's, the enemy of your soul leaves you alone. He could
yeah,
care less.
exactly.
He could care less.
Yep. So true.
You take that gift into your hand.
And they bulldoze you down.
Yeah, it's like, the
Yeah.
scratch of the record, and
Mm-hmm.
everything starts looking your way because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. And I know God had a purpose for my life because he
Mm-hmm.
gave me the gift of words, and
Mm,
words are powerful. If you know the Bible, you know that the spoken word has the
mm,
power of life or death.
right.
And words were so important in my
Mm,
life. And so nobody had really said like, okay, now you're going to start to, you'll be tempted, right? I was tempted into sexual sin. I was tempted
mm,
into, you know, like all of these other things,
yeah.
just the physical life. I wanted money. I wanted all the things, but for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And there was a long period of time of stumbling before I really started understanding,
The
what
walk.
are you doing? Like,
Mm,
what are you doing with your life?
mm,
And I knew I was God's, and I knew I believed in Christ, and I knew I was a Christian, and I knew I was going to heaven and all these things.
right.
But I now became the hypocrisy in church that I hated.
Mm,
And so I was working at the prison. Then I worked in leadership in a hospital for 13 years, which I both loved and hated.
yeah.
There's a lot of politics in that,
Oh,
and
yeah. I can imagine.
I don't play politics well.
Yeah. Me either.
Um, I just,
Not my cup of tea.
being a Jersey girl and learning how to use the spoken word appropriately and
Yes.
politically and in leadership and everything, that was really hard. I had a good few mentors, but um, really starting to surround myself with people who knew how to be real
Mm,
but appropriately real.
right.
um, and so at this point in time, working with some patients and about 50 staff or so,
Mm,
and um, trying to figure out what my real path was, what
right.
it was that God wanted me to use my
Mm,
words to do.
mm,
True.
mm,
Um, so I was one of maybe 3 forensic psychologists in a very small area in
mhm,
my area, and learned from a really good mentor how to do fitness to stand trial evaluations and things like that.
mhm,
Started doing some of that while I was working
mhm.
for the hospital. It's just so I could keep up my skills. And this man who was the deputy sheriff for Joe Davis County invited me to be a part of this new law enforcement team
Mm.
he was putting together
Oh, wow.
side. And the man wound up being a guy by the name of David Hackmeister. Now,
Mm.
some of the people you may know, some of your audience may know who that is. He was
Yeah.
one of the guys who brought down John Wayne Gacy.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's an amazing man, also a Christian, but an amazing law enforcement force,
Mm,
and recognized the importance of a multidisciplinary team. So he brought together this team and brought out this cold case from East Dubuque, Illinois, to have the team kind of practice on.
Uh-huh.
And so
Uh-huh.
there was local law enforcement, local police department, state police, FBI, dispatch,
Mhm.
me. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
know what I was doing. I didn't do anything. Like, I just sat there and I observed, which was
Yeah.
fine. And the the team really started to gel, and then they started actually cracking this case.
Oh,
It's
wow.
and they assigned me a babysitter most of the time, and it was either my buddy Merle, who was in dispatch at the time, and wound up being one of my bridesmaids in my wedding, uh, or this man named Casey. And Casey was one of the detectives on the case.
Mhm.
And again, in a really bad place in my life at the time, because um, I couldn't have kids. Didn't really feel like this was the right career for me, but just trying
Mhm.
to do something with
Yeah.
my life that was enjoyable and amazing and making a memory. So, again, I'm kind of just sitting around there and watching all of this happen, knowing I didn't necessarily want to do this type of work anymore.
Right.
Um, but the guys cracked the case, and
Wow.
um, the being able to watch that and be a part of that on the periphery,
Mhm.
and having some contact with the mother of the deceased child, and watching Casey and the FBI agent Wayne really, get a confession out of this guy and get him to
Oh,
confess
wow.
that he
That's so
premeditated this
cool.
awful
Yeah.
crime. He buried her in the backyard. And I remember us all standing at the dig with the FBI trainees, digging in the ground and doing all this stuff, and going, all of these pieces seem to be fitting together, but like, what am I doing here?
Mm.
What's my purpose?
Mm.
And so the guys and I would, hang out every once in a while, and got to know Casey pretty well. And then we started dating. And of course, fast
Aw.
forward a little bit, we got married. And I tell you what, this man is my best friend.
Mhm.
And to find something amazing
Mhm.
out of this bad part of my life and this horrible crime, and
Mhm.
if you have to find some meaning in why bad things happen sometimes.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not
Mhm.
saying a pedophile murdered his stepdaughter just so I could meet my husband. I'm not saying that. God doesn't work that way, but God does
Right.
turn ashes into beauty. And
Right.
he uses really bad things to uplift other
Mhm.
things. Uh,
Mhm.
and
I can relate to that because when I was divorced, I had waited 2 years before even thinking about trying to meet anyone, and
Mhm.
so I placed an ad, and Tim answered, and we met a couple of days later and just knew, we were getting married, but it was in also a time in my life where I felt like, what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I? Where am I going in life? And God knew, just hang on. And it
Yeah.
was just beautiful. The relationship I have the same. That's something I can relate with you. We have a beautiful relationship. I love him to pieces.
Yeah. I didn't know that you could be friends with
Yeah.
your spouse. I didn't
Yeah.
know. And I didn't grow up in a bad home. I
Mm.
just didn't see my parents as best friends. They
Right.
much had their own interests, they're separate friends. They had some mutual friends, but they really lived different lives with different
Mm.
interests.
Mm.
And
We
they
do everything together. I mean, we're
yeah,
always together.
like I love my friends, but they know that
Uh-huh.
if there's an opportunity for me to do something with my spouse, like,
It's
I prefer
happening.
to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just felt really blessed for that. And
Mm.
Casey was also raised Catholic, and so
Mhm.
we were kind of just living the first year, 2 or 3 years of our life, just doing our own thing on our own terms and with our own time. And we both started feeling like, man, we have a lot. We're very blessed. I think maybe we need to go back to church. And
Mm.
we do a lot of walking, and we have
Mhm.
some of our best discussions when we walk.
Yeah.
So um, we really just decided that we both it was time for us to go back to church.
Mm.
In the meantime, I had been struggling at work. My boss and I didn't see eye to eye. She
Mm.
really didn't like me.
Mm.
I did not necessarily appreciate some things about her,
Mm.
and I actually wound up getting fired from that job.
Oh,
And
jeez.
uh, yeah,
A
like
blessing.
it was coming. My job was threatened multiple times, and I remember at my wedding, she was supposed to be at my wedding. She no showed my wedding.
Mm.
Like, didn't even
Mm.
just say, "Hey, Jen, like I'm not going to be there."
Aw.
She no showed, and I was like, that speaks of character.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
um, but I remember being, seeing the end coming
Right.
and being on my honeymoon, and I was the breadwinner at the time, with in my family, with me and my husband, and just going, okay, like, what am I going to do?
Mm.
And the
Mm.
day I was fired, I remember sitting in the parking lot of a library looking for jobs, reached out to someone, had an interview the same day that I was fired. Like, God was like, boom, 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 boom,
Yep.
boom. Like, I'm going to put, Jen, I'm releasing you from this job
Right.
because
Right.
I was getting sick. I had been in the ER twice.
Mm.
Like, there was some
Mm.
some juju going down. I mean, I'm still friends with plenty of people. It's not a bad
Right.
place to
Right.
work, not a
Right.
bad,
But you
but
knew.
like,
Mhm.
it just, it was not good. It wasn't a good environment for me. And
Mhm. Mhm.
it was ruining my health, and it was ruining really who I was. I was stressed
Right.
out, like who I was. And I'm not even saying like I didn't necessarily, I just shouldn't have been there anymore. It wasn't the right place for me. And God was like, hang on to your hat, because he got me this interview and he got me this job, and I had more reasonable hours. He gave me thousands of dollars worth of a raise, and
Mm.
with fewer responsibilities, doing something that he knew I was going to make a difference in people's
Mhm.
lives.
Mhm.
And I was doing direct service work as a psychologist, and then I was able to consult for the state of Illinois. And then I got the news that, while all this was going on, that my dad needed open heart surgery.
Mm. Mm.
And it just so happened that his surgery was going to take place in the 3 months between my job ending and my next job beginning.
Ah,
So
another God thing.
I know, it's amazing. Like, if you're not paying attention, these
Oh,
things,
to those little details? Yeah.
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 So I was able to live at home in New Jersey, my home, and take care of my mom and dad, and take care of all
Aw.
the things. I did all the grocery shopping. I did, I put away the
Yeah.
Christmas decorations. I did
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Um, and then I remember sitting at New York Presbyterian while my dad had his open heart surgery. I think it was a triple bypass
Mm.
surgery.
Mm.
Then he had a long recovery. And
Yeah.
I stayed there a little bit afterwards, and then started my new job. Came back and
Mm.
started my job. 3 months after that, my husband's father needed 4 bypasses and two
Oh
stents
my
put.
goodness.
And I said to my husband, if we can do anything about it, we are not living this way. We're not
Mm.
headed in that direction.
Mm.
He and I started on this health journey.
Right.
We researched a lot of different supplements and things like that, and settled on plant-based supplements.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we know them as Plexus, but
Yeah. Yep.
um, really started to turn our health around, but
Mhm.
not knowing that this would bring us into a world where
Yeah.
there were so many believers, and
Mhm.
so many people who wanted to help you reach for the stars
Mhm.
and dream bigger than you ever thought you could dream,
Mhm.
and breathe life into you in ways that you just can't.
I
You just
can't even
can't do
find
them.
words for it.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
can't. I mean, since August, I have chills, because I can't
yeah,
describe to you the outpour, the love, the community
yeah,
that we have felt. It's been unbelievable.
yeah. And the thing is that you have to be willing to put yourself out there and do things that are making you feel uncomfortable. And
Yeah. And
I'm
that's been hard.
oh my God. Jenny Five Knuckles aside, I'm an
Mhm.
introvert. Like I
Yeah.
talk for a living. I talk to patients. I talk, I do podcasts. I'm a
Mhm.
coach. I use words for a living. So when
Right.
my downtime, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to hang out with my husband. I don't want to talk to
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Um,
Your dogs.
but right. Yeah. They're amazing. But, um, it just, you have to be able to take that step and risk discomfort
Mhm.
and being really crappy at something before you can be
Mhm.
good at something.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw I saw a lot of people who were absolutely not willing to share that part of their journey. Like I
Right.
blinked my eyes and all of a sudden I was the success, which is not how it happens.
Nope.
You have to tread through the muck and the mud in your life
Mhm.
and heal
Mhm.
the things that need to heal
Mhm.
as you go through it, whether you're in an MLM and selling whatever or
Mhm.
sharing, it doesn't matter, or you're
It
a
doesn't.
CEO of a business.
Mhm.
If you don't heal, you are going to get in your own way and blame
Mhm.
everybody else.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I saw that in a lot of other people. And I'm
Mm.
really attracted to that kind of, I didn't want the people anymore in my life who weren't walking the talk. That's
Right.
where I started from. That was where I was raised. That was the
Mhm.
bully mentality. That was all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I wanted the real deal people who could
Mhm.
bring out the Christian, could bring out the psychologist, who could bring out the Jenny Five Knuckles, and all of
Mhm.
that would be okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I reserve the badassery for myself.
Yeah.
Not in a bully form, but in a
No.
like, you need to do the hard things, Jen. You need to
Yeah.
do like, I don't need anybody to call me doctor. I know who I am. I'm not a,
Yeah.
I went through some years in school. I'm much more interested in like, what are you transcending? How are you
Mhm.
stopping this self sabotage? How are
Mm.
you going to move forward in your life and not get in your own way?
Right. Right.
How are you helping other people to heal? How are you healing yourself?
Mhm.
The path that I've been on with these new people, yourself,
Mhm.
many other
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
my coaching clients,
Yeah.
um, inspiring other people and really pushing them to stop that hamster wheel in their lives.
Right. Right.
So becoming a life coach then, after experiencing, my husband and I, surprise surprise, hired a coach together and
Yeah.
on an amazing couples retreat in Costa
Mhm.
Rica. And after experiencing some healing both in our relationship and experiencing that for myself,
Mhm.
I noticed that I wanted to be able to reach people who weren't going to necessarily walk into my therapy room.
Mm.
And there's plenty of men and women. I mostly work with women, but I also can work with men
Mhm.
um, who don't experience, I'll say, pathology or mental health concerns, so much so that they're going to come into a mental health clinic. But also, there's a lot of stigma still around that. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody talks about
Mhm.
mental health and my anxiety and my ADHD and we all own this instead of like, so I don't want to own that.
No.
Right?
No.
Somebody else can own that. I don't want to own that.
Exactly.
Um, And so I opened up my the Maverick, or the original Maverick Coach, uh, coaching, life coaching,
Oh, wow.
so that I can really just help people understand that they have different values and they have a different identity in Christ, and that they can stop this
Mhm.
360 hamster wheel lifestyle that keeps them in the same space over
Over
and
and over.
over
Yeah.
and over again. See the
But
clock?
how did you come up with the name for your coaching community?
Well, um, you know, uh, I did have a dog named Maverick,
Oh,
and
yes.
he was the dog I got once I realized I wasn't going to have kids. And as I thought about what would be most appropriate, you ask yourself when you're starting things like this, when you're starting your own business, who am I? And you can ask a lot of people, who am I to you? Who do I seem? And you get lots of opinions, and some of them fit and some of them don't. But at the end of the day, when I was just kind of on a little bit of a prayer walk, and I was like, who am I really? I'm a friend. I'm a psychologist. Like that's what I do. I thought, okay, I really want something that encapsulates my mental health background as a doctor of psychology, and my passion for healing, and my my Jersey girl side. There you are. And I am going to be Jenny Five Knuckles no matter where I go. All my
That's a
patients
part
now,
of you.
yeah,
That's a part of you.
I will
Yeah.
tell you things I may say may be like, oh, but if I can tell you the hard things, I'm telling you the hard things in love. And when we celebrate, I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
this is now something really big to celebrate. You get
Mhm.
genuine all the way. And
Mhm.
a lot of people don't have people who care about them to tell them the hard message. So
Exactly.
the Jenny Five is kind of like that part, as well
Yeah.
as the psychologist, but also a Christian, right? Like I
Yeah.
know who I am. And when I get scared, or when I feel like a failure, or when people, get persnickety with me or whatever, I know who I am,
Right.
which is why I don't
Right.
need anybody to call me doctor or anything else, because
Yeah.
I know you don't need to
Right.
confirm me.
Right.
So what is all that? And I started looking up the definition of a maverick, and
Mm.
it was blowing my mind, because it was, someone who isn't. First of all, you have to like wade through all the
Yeah.
pictures
Yeah.
of
All
men,
the things.
and all
Yeah.
the the sports pictures,
Right. Right.
and all the Top Gun crap, like, because you have to sort through. I mean, that's all. It's very heavily testosterone,
Mhm. Mhm.
and you see them wearing tie and whatnot,
Yeah.
but like, to encapsulate your whole self, you have a bit of a masculine and a feminine side. That there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. You're a whole person, and
Mhm.
you can be a tough woman
Mhm.
and still be a woman.
Mhm.
And our society just doesn't get that right. But
No, they don't.
when you look up what a maverick is, and it's not satisfied with the status quo, and it's not um it's blazing a trail. It's an unending desire to do what's never been done before.
Mm.
And there were so many things that just
Resonated.
hit me, and
Mhm.
I thought, this is what I want. This is what I want for me. This is what I want for my
Your
clients. This
clients.
is what I
Mhm.
want. This is just what I want for people.
Mm.
And I I settled on that, and it fit.
Yeah.
And people, when you start thinking about different things like that,
Mhm.
you just have to wait. And I'm not a patient person, but
I'm
you
not
have to
either.
wait and see what clicks. Because
No,
if you don't,
it's
I'm
not
trying to
good.
see. No,
Mhm.
it will feel like you're wearing someone else's skin.
Exactly.
It will
Yeah.
feel like you are copying. You're just, um, a buddy of mine, we met him on an airplane. My husband and I sat next to him on an airplane, and he worked in the music business for a very long time. And he has one of these sayings that I just absolutely love. He says, "You're just bringing sand to the beach."
That is so good. I love
And
that.
right. And I thought,
Yeah.
that's not what I want. I
Right.
just want to just bring more noise to the world.
Right.
The world is already noisy. The world
Yeah.
has enough girls who look just so and sound just
Mhm.
so and do this
Mhm.
and, say the buzz phrases and,
Mhm.
you know, just be you.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
only one you, whatever
Yeah.
that is, and try to figure that out. I'm 48 years old. I just needed to be me. There's
Yeah.
no other Jenny Five Knuckles in the world. I can guarantee you that.
Exactly. Right. He created you for a purpose and the person that you are. So that's what he wants for us to be, not try to create from other people, create
Yeah.
from what he's given you.
Yeah.
It's so many things and we're still learning. I'm 62 this next year and I'm like, there's still so much he wants me to do and know. I
Yeah.
mean,
And look at all of the amazing things that you get to do
mhm.
because you're just being you.
Right. Right. I started the podcast and it was a different name and it was about me. I was just talking about me and my life, and I thought I stopped because it didn't feel right. And not that I was not wanting to be me, but I didn't want to talk about me. I stopped and I thought, this isn't where this needs to go. And so I prayed and I just waited for the direction and then it hit me the journey within you. And again, I had to just let that sit with me and all right, Lord, what are we wanting with this journey within you?
Yeah.
And it was to bring these women on and, Jennifer, I've had women on that have never told their story, and they shared because they knew it was time, and that just gave me chills again because I'm like, these beautiful women have held it in, afraid to
Yeah.
talk about it, and look where they are today, though. I was like, we can celebrate, like you said, you can genuinely celebrate with these people when they've made it through some really hard times. And then they're surviving, they're resilient, they're blossoming, they're doing great things, because they've given their lives to God and to his leading. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. You can't fulfill your part of your journey trying to work someone else's journey. And
Right.
that is something that each person has to figure out because
Yeah.
I work with a lot of high achievers. That's kind of my, I don't know.
Mhm.
That's my market. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like when you are a high achiever, you're focused on doing and not
Right.
being,
Being.
which
Yeah.
means that you're focused on all of the stuff that we sit in our own humanity, what you
Mhm.
look like physically,
Mhm.
the things you have, all of the stuff that you really want to attain. But
Mhm.
doing, really, although it has its rewards and we are supposed to
Mhm.
do,
Mhm.
you miss out on the being, which is the
Mhm.
spirit, the spiritual part.
Right, right, and the
So
being and doing intertwine as long as you've got that being and being strong in the being, the
yeah.
doing will come because you can't just sit. You've got to do, but in the right direction of your being, and that's
Yeah.
something I've learned over the last probably 3 or 4 years. That's just stuff that has grown in me,
Mhm.
the being.
Yeah, and high achievers always want to they do, and then there's very little satisfaction because
And then
then
they gotta do some
do
more.
again
Yeah,
and need to do
yeah,
again.
yeah,
And
and
so
they're never satisfied.
when I talk to you about the Maverick and what it means, I'm going to read this to you. The Maverick means unbranded. Now, if you
Mm,
think about that and what we were just talking about,
yeah,
you're not a walking brand, you're your own brand.
yeah,
It means an independent person who avoids conformity, a free spirit, one who blazes their own trail, an independent thinker,
mm,
visionaries who want to achieve what's never been achieved before, not a fan of the status quo. Mavericks are innovative, they're influential, they're daring, direct, and here's the thing, having an unyielding belief that things can and must be better.
I love, love, love that so much. That is something I resonated with a bunch of that because I remember when we got brought into corporate and I had my first corporate, yearly sit down because they took us under our business. And I remember sitting in this office, it felt so stuffy. And I was like, I'm going to be flat out with you guys. I am not corporate. I am not a corporate person. You will like what I do, you accept what I do, but I'm not conformed to corporate. I just never have, could be. It's not who I am.
Right.
And they were fine with that because we knew all the company and people, but still it was just, I'm not going to come in here and get checkbox, for things
Right.
because I'm not corporate. And then I remember sitting through some of our trainings through our company things and different things, and branding and niche and this and that. And I'm like, I can't be boxed in. I mean, I have a thing of me who I am, but there's lots of parts of me and I want those parts known. I want to be known in these areas and not just be branded in this one thing. And that's who I am.
Right.
God created me to be more.
Yeah. I mean, and when you can find that out, so I am just as comfortable sitting in front of a 7-figure earner, helping them, move the needle in their life, in their relationships, get that healing, as I am with a high-ranking gang member from Chicago.
Right. Right.
So, so I mean, because people are people wherever you go.
Yeah.
We've got warts. We've got wins. You have some people with traumatic experiences, and you've got people who are willing to go to the mattresses. Honestly, there are different ways that people live their lives, and I've used my words for good and not evil.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I, when we first got married, because he's a detective and I'm a psychologist, we agreed we weren't going to Jedi mind trick each other. We were going to use good and not evil. But, again, when I'm sitting in front of, I'll say a former gang member who, with one phone call could go to the mattresses with a bunch of people if they need something, or I'm sitting with a high-powered someone or other who probably also has several people in their back pocket to, make things happen. Now, what they make happen are very different, but people learn to wield power and the power that they can wield by their experiences. But I tell you what, everyone has access to power.
Yeah.
It's where are you drawing your power from?
Yeah.
And so part of my coaching is helping people reconnect with the ultimate source of power and truth, which is our creator, is God, is Christ.
Yeah, creator.
So, because then you're unstoppable.
Right. That is so true. Well, Jennifer, this has been a blessing. I am so thankful for you, and I can't wait to see you in less than 21 days.
Yeah.
We will be in San Antonio together, getting pumped up for our year. It's going to be so, so good. So I hope to sit next to you at least one time during one of the sessions. I know we got to last year.
Yes.
And it was so fun. Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.